This is one of those things where when injustice happens to one man anywhere, it happens to all men everywhere. I saw this. This is from the Irish Times, irishtimes.com. Youth who stabbed home intruder jailed for 3.5 years. Who did he go out and look for somebody to victimize? Or did that person come to him and try to victimize him and his mom? Judge said Dean Carey was entitled to use force in defense of himself, but the force he used was grossly excessive. Easy for somebody to say who wasn't there at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting windows broken, getting their door bashed in, getting their mom threatened. This is outrageous. The young man who stabbed and killed an intruder who had attacked him in his home. Think about this is the context. The context isn't out on the street. The context isn't this guy going out to look, this kid going out to look for somebody to stab. This is somebody invading your home, invading the privacy of your own home, putting you and your family members, your loved ones in danger. He had attacked him in his home in the middle of the night, has been jailed for 3.5 years by the Central Criminal Court. Well, that's criminal, Central Criminal Court. It's criminal to imprison somebody and take away 100% of their freedoms when all they were trying to do was defend themselves, even though in that defense it led to the death of the intruder. Mr. Justice Paul McDermott said Dean Carey, who's 21 years old at the time, but was 17 when this crime took place. And I'm not talking about the crime of 17-year-old Dean Carey. I'm talking about the crime of the guy who actually invaded his home, was entitled to use force in defense of himself, his family, and his home, but the force he used was grossly excessive given that the victim, Jack Power, the guy who broke into his house, was unarmed. Cry me a river. I don't care if you're armed or not. You come into my house, I'm going to assume you're armed, and even if I don't take the time to assume that you're armed, I'm assuming you've come to kill me, that you've come to kill my children and the people that I love in the house, in my house, that you don't belong in. If you go out in a body bag, well, whose fault really was it? The homeowner or the intruder? If you play those stupid games, what do you get? Taking into account that Carey was 17 at the time, showed genuine remorse and that he did not expect or instigate the violence on the night, the judge imposed a sentence of 4 years and 6 months with the final year suspended for 2 years. Oh, how nice of him. He shouldn't have gone to jail for 2 days. He shouldn't have gone to jail for 2 seconds. He shouldn't have even had to been dragged into court, and his family. Can you imagine the court fees, the attorney's fees? Can you imagine the time that was wasted on behalf of him and his family? And I'm sure that the taxpayers around there, I'm sure that there are people that are absolutely up in arms about this, because it doesn't stop with Dean Carey. Next time somebody breaks into your house, it's going to make you think twice before you even harm them, because you might go to jail for somebody breaking into your house and you defending your house. What the frick is going on here? The sentence is backdated to June 30th this year to take into account time Carey has already spent in custody. Oh, how nice. Carey, 21, with this address right here, was twice tried for murder, but convicted by a jury of manslaughter for killing Mr. Powers, for defending his house after the deceased had entered his home at this place right here in the early hours of July 26, 2018. Delivering sentence on Wednesday, Mr. Justice McDermott said that in impact statements made to the court, Jack Powers, that's the intruder Jack Powers, criminal Jack Powers, the guy who's trying to victimize this guy and his mom, Jack Powers, had said that they felt their son had no voice in the courtroom. He kind of gave that up when he broke into somebody's house. Trials, the judge said, focused on rules and evidence and provide, quote, cold comfort for relatives whose loss is profound and lifelong. Well, what about the loss of the guy's family who got broken in on? What about that loss? He described the deceased as a quote, exceptionally hardworking young man who loved his work as a fisherman and was, quote, fueled by his father's encouragement. He was a role model. He broke into some guy's house and fun companion for his brothers, and his loss is incalculable. Well, then you probably shouldn't have done something that would have yielded consequences that would have made it likely for you not to survive. And whose fault was that? It's all on the shoulders of intruder Jack Powers. But that's not the way the court saw it. The court said, hey, we need to punish the guy who got his home broken in on. We need to punish the guy who was victimized by Jack Powers. We need to teach him a lesson. And we're not just going to teach this guy a lesson, the 17-year-old kid who's now 21. We're going to teach everybody a lesson who gets their home broken in. So you better think twice about grabbing that steak knife. He added, nothing I do or say will alleviate this suffering. The sentence I impose, there shouldn't be a sentence, must be proportionate to the gravity of the offense of manslaughter and also appropriate to his, that's Carey's, circumstances. The trial heard that Jack Power had been drinking in the early hours and about 3 a.m. saw damage to his car, which he believed had been caused by Dean Carey. Now, what made him believe that? We don't know. They don't say. He went to Carey's home, picked up a rock, and smashed the front window of Carey's home. He then entered through the front door. Usually doors are locked at 3 o'clock in the morning. I wonder how he made it to the other side of the threshold. Mr. Justice McDermott said Mr. Power assaulted Dean Carey in his bedroom, and there was a suggestion that he also attacked Carey's mother. So somebody attacks your mom, what are you going to be doing? Oh, mom's screaming in the bedroom down the hall. What the heck is going on? What are you going to be doing? You're going to be grabbing some personal protection device, no matter what it is, whether it's an alarm clock, a knife, or a pew-pew, and you're going to be going to where mom's screaming, and you're going to take care of the assailant, whatever's going on. Carey told this person right here that he found a knife by the side of the bed and stabbed Mr. Power in the course of the melee. Mr. Justice McDermott said that he does not believe the court has heard the truth about the, quote, provenance of the knife and how it was found, but he armed himself quickly and used the knife. The judge added, I have to consider the nature of what happened that night. This, I think it's a parliamentary group, Oireachtas, has recognized the special position of those obliged to defend themselves or their property from unlawful attack, particularly in their home. You think? That is therefore a matter that has to be taken into account when considering the culpability of the accused. Those who are attacked in their home are entitled to use force. I don't need you to tell me that. I know that I am. And sometimes lethal force in defense of themselves and their home. He said Carey's case was different to one where a person carries a concealed knife in public, and the defendant's case therefore attracts a lesser sentence. Carey did not instigate the attack and could not have expected it. He was at home. Then why did you sentence him? He was at home when, without warning, he was attacked by Mr. Power, who had thrown a large rock through the front window of the house and unlawfully entered. The judge also noted that Mr. Power was a tall, well-built man, while Carey was of slight build and younger. So Carey was at a disadvantage to intruder Mr. Power. So he had to do something where he could gain the advantage and defend his home and protect his mom. But the jury's verdict indicated that Carey had used excessive force when he stabbed Mr. Power, and the fact that Mr. Power was unarmed was an aggravating factor. Give me a freaking break. How is this justice? I don't care if he's got something in his hands or not. He could have something in his pocket that he could pull out, and if I don't take care of him, he's going to pull it out and use it on me. So what am I, damned if I do, damned if I don't? If I don't defend myself by any means necessary, then my mom could die or be severely injured. I could die or be severely injured. The guy could burn down our house, and then the entire, if I'm living next door neighbors, their houses could be in jeopardy. If I don't take care of this threat, there's a whole bunch of things that could happen that we don't know if it will or not, so I'm not going to take the chance. When the offense happened, Carey was a minor and had been sentenced as a minor. He would have been subject to a regime where the emphasis is on rehabilitation rather than punishment, the judge said. An adult who had committed the same crime who faced the same crime. There's no crime was committed on Carey's part. This is such a perversion of justice. This is such a travesty. He would have faced a headline sentence of 7 years, the judge said, taking into account Carey's age and the, quote, difficult and pressurized situation created by the deceased, which was not of his making. We know that. That's why he shouldn't be charged. That's why he shouldn't be sitting in a jail cell right now. He set the headline at 5 years and 6 months. He further reduced that, having considered Carey's remorse. People act like, oh, the court did us a favor. No, the court did you no favors if you went to jail for 2 seconds doing that, defending your house and your mom and yourself. and that he immediately contacted emergency services following the stabbing and accepted responsibility for inflicting the fatal wound. Carey is considered a moderate risk of violent offending in the future and will be required to work with probation services and engage with anger and violence management if deemed appropriate after his release. The guy's going to jail for this kid is going to jail for 3.5 years because he defended his mom and he protected his home by taking out the intruder, Mr. Powers. And if that ain't injustice, I don't know what is. So I'd like you to leave your thoughts about this. I want to hear what you have to say. It's truly infuriating.